This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. We'll get to the Middle East in a minute, but first, rainy weather forcing farmers to put a pause on their spring planting, and there's more rain in the forecast over the next couple days. Matt Romberger runs a crop farm in Pennsylvania's northern tier.
The rain has prevented us from getting crops in as early as we like. So it just delayed everything. You can't get in the fields when it's too wet.
He's about a month behind with his spring planting. Eric Johnson's a fruit farmer in Broome County, New York.
We're looking for the weather to warm up, nice sunny days, just kind of a normal summer, which we never seem to get anymore.
Gene Kotsky at Cornell Cooperative Extension says normal summers have been replaced by unpredictable weather patterns.
It seems to be either boom or bust now. There's not even keel.
If you're sick of the wet and the cold, hang in there because things are going to change big time. The long-range forecast shows remarkable improvement in our weather. In fact, we're talking a heat wave perhaps as soon as next week. Several days of 90-plus degree temperatures. President Trump back at the White House after leaving the G7 summit early in Canada. That's so he could tend to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. The commander-in-chief remains confident that cooler heads will prevail even as the crisis escalates in the Middle East.
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran, and we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
On Monday, the president warned that everybody should immediately evacuate Tehran without explaining why. Tehran is a city of 10 million people. The president also urging the Iranians to get back to the nuclear talks.
I think a deal will be signed, or something will happen, but a deal will be signed. And I think Iran is foolish not to sign one.
National security expert Dr. Rebecca Grant.
There's no question Trump will leave that door open for a deal, but Iran's going to have to show they're sincere if they want to talk. How to do that? Stop those missile attacks.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns threats from Iran extend well beyond the Jewish state.
Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want.
The Israelis claim to have killed Iran's top military commander and taken out a third of Tehran's missile launchers. About 1 million Israelis spent the night last night in underground bomb shelters. A California appeals court is hearing arguments today on the president's use of the military to quell the recent L.A. riots. Those riots broke out earlier this month to protest ICE raids. Attorney Mahek Cook.
You have ICE that's being completely overrun. So what President Trump did as the commander-in-chief under his Article 2 powers was send in the National Guard as a defensive move.
President Trump is adamant without the National Guard, L.A. would have burned to the ground. California Governor Gavin Newsom claims the commander-in-chief had no right to call in the troops.
Gavin Newsom is politicizing this by going to court and saying that he should be making these decisions. The fact is he cannot veto or override President Trump's legal authority here. This is a waste of court resources and taxpayer dollars.
This matter could ultimately be resolved by the U.S. Supreme Court. The man accused in those politically motivated shootings in Minnesota could get the death penalty if convicted. 57-year-old Vance Belter charged with shooting 2 state lawmakers and their spouses over the weekend near Minneapolis.
His crimes are the stuff of nightmares. Belter stalked his victims like prey. This was a political assassination.
Joseph Thompson is the U.S. attorney for Minnesota. Police say Belter had a hit list containing the names and addresses of 45 state and federal officials. He was captured after the largest manhunt in Minnesota history. New study shows how U.S. churches have rebounded since COVID. According to the EPIC project, the Exploring the Pandemic Impact on on Congregations project. 21% of regular churchgoers have increased their attendance since 2020, the year COVID struck. 38% of current church attenders joined a congregation in the past 5 years, and nearly 6 in 10 parishioners admit the pandemic strengthened their faith. Still to come on the Noon Report, heat wave on the way, summer water safety tips, and Sunday hunting in Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams talking about some summery weather in the days ahead. I'll have forecast details coming up.
All right, Kevin, and that's good to hear because summer starts officially this Friday. With that in mind, Family Life is speaking next with emergency official Tim Marshall about how to play it safe on the water. Here's some of our conversation. We have so many wonderful lakes and streams and rivers across the listening area, but you got to play it safe while you're out on the water, Tim. Whether you're swimming or boating, what are some of the most important safety tips to keep in mind?
Well, we've had some water rescues on the river here recently, and the biggest thing to remember is whenever you're near the water, specifically when you're near moving water, you should wear a personal flotation device. It's also important to remember that there are many what we call snags or debris in the river right now, so those are things to keep in mind.
Yeah, and when it comes to the boating, New York State, it's required. You've got to take an 8-hour boater safety course. Why is that, Tim?
I think it's just to make sure that those that are boating know the general safety rules of being out on the water. A lot of people will come here to vacation and they'll rent a boat and they've had no experience with operating a boat and knowing the navigation rules.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of those non-motorized water vessels. Tragically, just over the weekend, we had at least 2 cases of drowning in kayaks. One was in the Syracuse area, and the other was in the State College area on a river there where kayakers tragically drowned. What are some things we need to know when it comes to kayaks and canoes and that sort of thing?
Well, again, the biggest thing is having that personal flotation device to be able to bring you afloat if you get thrown out of your kayak, or if you get overturned, you can turn yourself back around, hopefully. But knowing the limits of what you can do, not getting into dangerous water when we have these heavy rain events and the water becomes more turbulent. It's not a time to be out on the water. You want to take your time and let that water settle a little bit before you go out on the water. And again, that muddy water that comes down with these flood waters, you can't see what's in the water. So you can't see that log. You can't see that branch that's there that could catch you and hold you underwater. So you want to make sure that you're definitely playing safe when you're kayaking. Know your limits and always wear that PFD.
Gotcha. And if it ever stops raining, folks will be getting out into those backyard swimming pools. I know the temperatures are going to go up dramatically starting this weekend. Backyard swimming pools, things you need to keep in mind when it comes to swimming at home, Tim.
Yeah, make sure that you have a gate around your pool. Keep that gate closed so that animals and small children can't get into that pool unless they're being supervised. So that's the biggest step that you want to make sure that you're taking there. Again, knowing your limits, knowing what you can do. Small children, you want to keep them away from the pool, or if they're out around the pool, you want to make sure that they've got some sort of a flotation device on to make sure that if they fall in, then, they're going to float and they're not going to go under.
Yeah.
Having an alarm on your pool is another good safety feature, specifically if you have an in-ground pool. Having an alarm on that pool to notify you if something falls into that water.
Yeah. Having witnessed a drowning last summer, I'm telling you, it is the most horrific thing because it happens in an instant and it's a silent death. So it doesn't take a lot of time for tragedy to happen. So make sure you're playing it smart, playing it safe on the water. Tim, thank you so much for your time. Anything in closing you'd like to add?
Yeah, the other thing that we have to also be cautious of in our region here is our dams. The water may may look still right now, but within a couple hours it may raise because the dams have a tendency to release water based upon their storage capacity. So that's something else that you have to take into consideration. I know several years ago there were a couple of students that were crossing the river down near Corning, and they got about halfway through and the water started rising and they got swept away, and that's because the dams had released water. But there are websites that you can go to check those stream gauges and to find out what the water levels are and monitor those when you're out on the river, and make sure that you have friends who know where you are and what portion of the river you're going to be navigating, so that if you don't return on time, they can notify authorities.
That is good advice from Tim Marshall, Director of Public Safety for Steuben County, New York. Other news this Tuesday afternoon, revised school budget votes are happening today in New York. These are for the districts where spending plans were shot down last month. About 24 budgets statewide were defeated in May. You should check with your local school district for voting times and places. A New York court will take a new look at whether religious groups should be exempt from a state law that requires health insurance plans cover abortions. The Roman Catholic Diocese of Albany and other faith-based institutions challenged that rule. Last year, the New York Court of Appeals upheld the regulation. There's been a big drug bust on the Peace Bridge in Buffalo.
A California man was arrested by Customs and Border Protection with 78 pounds of marijuana after reportedly making a wrong turn onto the Peace Bridge on Sunday. 43-year-old Ronald Nunn was driving a rental truck and following directions that mistakenly led him to Canada. Nunn encountered CPB officers and reportedly told them his truck was empty. An inspection allegedly revealed 60 vacuum-sealed packages of marijuana in 3 cardboard boxes. The marijuana has an estimated street value of $230,000. Nunn was turned over to the Buffalo police and is expected to face felony charges for criminal possession of cannabis. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you, Dee. DeUville University in Buffalo is planning a $175 million medical campus downtown. It'll be located in the heart of the Queen City. This new College of Osteopathic Medicine could help address an ongoing medical staffing shortage. The inaugural class is expected in the fall of 2026. And Pennsylvania politicians have recently paved the way for expanded Sunday hunting. The State House voted to repeal a Sunday hunting ban, and the measure is awaiting action in the state Senate. These hunters say they're all for it.
Not a lot of people have Monday through Friday open, and Saturday it's a little busy.
It would help young people that during the fall season when they're in school, very limited time to hunt, that would give them an extra day.
Under current Pennsylvania state law, it is unlawful to hunt on Sundays except for foxes, crows, and coyotes. The state does allow for a limited number of Sunday hunts during bear and deer season. Let's talk sports. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the Oklahoma City Thunder just one win away from winning the NBA championship. They won at home against the Pacers last night, 120-109. Jalen Williams exploded for 40 points, and the league's MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, had a double-double, 31 points and 10 assists. The Thunder now lead the Pacers 3-2 with Game 6 Thursday night in Indiana. To baseball. It was a very low-scoring affair in the Yankees-Angels game, and unfortunately for the Yanks, they came out on the short end. LA won, New York nothing in 11 innings. Elsewhere in the American League, Ryan Pepkew struck out 11 as Tampa Bay knocked off Baltimore 7-1. The Red Sox shut out Seattle 2-0. Highly touted rookie Roman Anthony hit his first big league home run. The Athletics beat Houston 3-1. In the National League, Trey Turner hit a leadoff shot, and Max Kepler also went deep. The Phillies took down the Marlins 5-2. Shohei Ohtani made his pitching debut, just tossing one inning. He did give up a run, but he more than made up for it at the dish, going 2 for 4 and driving in 2. Max Muncy also drove in a pair. The Dodgers won their third straight 6-3 over the Padres. Hunter Goodman homered twice, including the tying shot in the 9th, and then Mickey Moniak hit a 2-run shot a few batters later. The Rockies came back to beat the skidding Nationals 6-4. And in case you missed it, Arkansas's Gage Wood pitched only the third no-hitter in men's college World Series history, and it's the first one in 65 years. He struck out a record 19 batters as the Razorbacks shut out Murray State 3-0. That is a look at sports.
What a game that was. Thank you, Randy. And still to come on the Noon Report. Next steps in the Israeli-Iran conflict. New details in Minnesota assassination plot. And major warm-ups on the way. Kev's got that forecast right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In a letter dated June the 1st, several organizations under the leadership of the Alliance Defending Freedom urged every member of the U.S. Congress to pass the Family Rights and Responsibilities Act. This bill would enshrine into law the primacy of moms and dads in the care of their own kids. Among other things, it would recognize the following. First, the nature of the parent-child relationship endows parents with the primary responsibility and obligation to care for their child. Second, from these responsibilities and obligations comes the pre-political natural right of parents to care for their children. And third, the role of parents in the raising and rearing of their children is of inestimable value and deserving of both praise and protection by all levels of government. Now, the organizers chose June 1st in order to mark the 100th anniversary of a consequential Supreme Court case that clarified parental rights back in 1925. Pierce versus the Society of Sisters unanimously recognized a parental right to school choice. Though this case was formally about education, it had strong implications for the relationship between home and government. In his majority opinion, Justice James McReynolds wrote this, quote, "The child's not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right, coupled with the high duty, to recognize and prepare him for additional obligations," end quote. Now, that common sense approach to the relationship between family and the state is now being challenged. A dangerous alliance of government agents, medical professionals, educators, self-appointed activists, and media outlets have decided to champion the world's children by challenging the role of parents, essentially making moms and dads temporary and optional caretakers. That is not God's design. There are already cases of kids being taken from their families, families that refuse to play along with transgender ideology. Parents have been charged with child abuse for refusing the dangerous and now largely debunked practice of chemical sterilizations. Most recently, Colorado Governor Jared Polis and the state legislature attempted to grant themselves the power to take kids from parents that misgender their child. These are all examples of government overreach and clear violations of the First Amendment. Americans have good reason to be confident that many of these things will be overturned before long. And yet, with the long persecution of people like Jack Phillips, much damage can be done in the meantime. A dark and powerful worldview of sexual idolization drives these laws, and their proponents aren't backing down. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you very much. Let's head outside next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. Clouds, breaks of sun, a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms around the area. Highs in the 70s to near 80. Tonight, some clouds and muggy with a stray shower, the low in the 60s. Tomorrow, Thursday, it's going to be muggy, warm, plenty of clouds, breaks of sun, and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms, particularly during the afternoon hours, with high temperatures ranging primarily in the 80s.
All right, next week we hit the 90s, so get ready, folks. Summer is a-coming. This is the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price, and there's a lot to get to today, Tuesday, the 17th of June. Tensions are rising in the Middle East. President Trump cutting short his trip to Canada this week to focus on the growing crisis between Israel and Iran. He's back at the White House meeting with his national security team today. Correspondent Simon Marks.
His officials say he has important matters to attend to in Washington, stoking speculation that he is considering providing Israel with £30,000 bunker-busting bombs that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants to inflict on Iran's nuclear facilities.
NBC News security analyst Jeremy Bash.
A nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran, in the hands of the Islamic Republic of Iran, would be a grave danger not just to Israel, not just to our other Gulf allies and partners and our troops, but indeed to the homeland of the United States.
The president returning to the White House overnight with an ominous warning on social media. Everyone, wrote Trump, should evacuate Tehran immediately. Tehran's a city of 10 million people. The Pentagon is expediting the deployment of warships to the Middle East. Former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez reports to prison today. The Democrat will start an 11-year sentence in Pennsylvania after being convicted of a bribery scheme involving cash, gold bars, and a Mercedes-Benz. Menendez acted as a foreign agent for Egypt. The Minnesota man accused of shooting two state lawmakers and their spouses could be getting the death penalty. 57-year-old Vance Belter was captured in the largest manhunt ever in Minnesota. Officials are calling the killings politically motivated assassinations. The suspect's friend, David Carlson.
I don't know why he did what he did. It's not Vance.
Carlson says he got two troubling texts from Belter after those weekend shootings. One said, and we're quoting, "I may be dead shortly." The other read, and we're also quoting, "I wish it hadn't gone this way," end quote. Reporter Anna Schechter says the defendant was experiencing financial difficulty at the time of the shooting.
Trying to and struggling to kind of get that financial footing that he wanted. So that's a little picture of the man that we are now piecing together.
Belter had a hit list containing the names and addresses of more than 45 state and federal officials. Investigators say he carried out the attacks by pretending to be a police officer. The victims were shot in their homes. A World War II-era bomb is washed ashore along a Florida beach. Children playing in Englewood Beach, south of Sarasota, found that inactive bomb. It's been transported to the MacDill Air Base for further examination. A California appeals court is hearing arguments today on President Trump's use of National Guard troops to quell the recent riots in downtown Los Angeles. Here's legal analyst Lori Levinson.
What do we know about these judges? We actually know that two of the judges were appointed by Trump and one by Biden. But it's still a question how it will come out, because even though one of the Trump judges is considered very conservative, the other one is considered more moderate.
President Trump says the troops were necessary to keep L.A. from burning to the ground. California Governor Gavin Newsom called the presence of those soldiers a violation of the U.S. Constitution's Separation of Powers Amendment, the 10th Amendment. He claims this matter could ultimately be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. The ice promises to be a hot place tonight as the Stanley Cup Finals continues. It could be the final game this year if the Panthers beat the Oilers. The Florida Panthers are gunning for their second straight championship. It is Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals, with the Panthers leading Edmonton 3-2. The U.S. Army is confident that Saturday's military parade in our nation's capital did not do much damage to the city streets of Washington, D.C.
An Army spokesperson says assessments following the parade are not showing any serious damage to the parade route or the staging area. The Army credits the lack of damage to protective steps taken before the parade, including rubber pads on tank tracks and steel plates in several areas. The National Park Service and the Federal Highway Administration will test the streets for underground damage over the next few weeks. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Tanks, troops, and military aircraft were all paraded through the streets of D.C. to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary over the weekend. America's longest-running TV evangelist is fighting for his life in the hospital. Jimmy Swaggart suffered a cardiac arrest over the weekend. He'd been in ministry since the 1950s, but a scandal in the 1980s tarnished his reputation. Jimmy Swaggart is 90 years old. America's top battery brands are locked in a power struggle over battery life claims. Duracell is suing Energizer, accusing it of falsely stating its Energizer Max batteries outlast Duracell Power Boost batteries by 10%. Duracell says those ads caused their brand to suffer reputational harm. You're listening to the Noon Report for Tuesday on Family Life.
An all-American way to connect people with the gospel. That's at the heart of an upcoming event in Pennsylvania. Welcome back to another edition of Hometown Heroes on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, and this week's guest is Pastor Brant Fuller with New Beginnings Church of God in Meadville, getting ready to host their annual Ultimate Freedom event on Independence Day. He says what's now a big event had humble beginnings, born of a basic community need.
Well, about 10 years ago, we just noticed there was really nothing for our community on July 4th. And so we looked at how we could kind of fill that void and just kind of started off our first year with a couple food vendors, and we just thought we'll do some fireworks at the end of the night. And so we wanted to do real fireworks, and a great memory that first year was we set the fireworks off and somebody yelled out, "Wow, they're actually real fireworks." I don't know if they thought we were going to do sparklers on the rooftop or what, but so it kind of just started out of a way to use a holiday to celebrate with the community, and then also use that as an opportunity to spread the gospel and let people know about the freedom we find in Christ, and just share a little love with the community.
And since that humble beginning there, it really has grown. What's it like now? What are we expecting this time around?
Yeah, so each year it's just kind of got bigger and bigger, and we initially started it on our church property. And then after about 3 years, it outgrown that. And so now we rent our local fairgrounds, which conveniently is just about a half a mile away from the church. And the last 3 or 4 years have probably been averaging 6,000 to 8,000 people throughout the day there. And every area has kind of grown. We have almost 20 food vendors, food trucks, and the kids area just keeps getting bigger every year, and live music. And it's just a great day. And we have a cruise in, lots of great cars to look at. And then usually just try to, weave in some of our pastors. We take 5 minutes from the stage just to welcome everybody and talk about why we do what we do. And it's just every year kind of keeps getting a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I know you got Jordan St. Cyr there doing concerts, and it's neat to see nothing more universal in the U.S. than a nice 4th of July celebration. What a perfect way to get a little channel into the community and bring something even more important to them eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've just had so many great connections over the years with different people in our community. And every year, a lot of this is underwritten by local businesses or people from the church that have businesses. And this year we've had almost $40,000 that have been donated. It costs about $50,000 to do the event this year. Each year kind of gets a little more expensive with the way things have cost a little bit more each year. But last year we had about $30,000 donated, and this year we've bumped that up. People have donated about $38,000. So it's been awesome to see the community partner with us and see the value in the event. And it's been a great thing to connect and make those partnerships.
What have you seen to flesh that out a little bit after the event? How that effect might linger and maybe get people eventually, hopefully, interested in the gospel?
Yeah, absolutely. Each time we do the event, we just seem to make connections with people. And as we follow up with them, we've had multiple opportunities to lead people to Christ, whether it's that day or in the future. We actually just hired somebody on our church staff that came to the event a couple of years ago, and they actually lived in somewhere else in the country, but were looking to move this way and ended up connecting with us. And we just hired one of those people on our staff as one of our pastors about a year ago. So it's funny how you never know what kind of connections you're going to make on that day. And our goal is just to create a place to share God's love and share the gospel and let God take care of the rest. So
launch a firework, and who knows what else you might wind up launching.
Right. You never can tell. So it's been awesome. We're looking forward to it. This year is our 10-year anniversary, so we're going to celebrate big, and we've added some new things this year, and it's just going to be looking forward to a great day.
That's Pastor Brad Fuller with New Beginnings Church of God in Meadville, Pennsylvania, getting ready to host their annual Ultimate Freedom event on Independence Day. Please join us again next time as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
Thank you very much, Mark. And Hometown Heroes comes your way every Tuesday during the Noon Report. You can subscribe, listen to, and share Hometown Heroes, as well as all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our website, which is familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A more summery weather pattern is on the way. Warmth and humidity will be characterizing the rest of the work week here, but higher heat, higher humidities will make a real taste of summertime around these parts next week. For this afternoon, clouds, breaks of sun, a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms will roam the area. Highs in the 70s to near 80. Tonight, some clouds and muggy with a stray shower, the low in the 60s. Tomorrow, Thursday, it's going to be muggy, warm, plenty of clouds, breaks of sun, and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms, particularly during the afternoon hours, with high temperatures ranging primarily in the 80s.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. And before we let you go, if vegetables are not your thing, well, today might be the day you want to give them a try. Family Life's Brian Query tells us why.
Today is National Eat Your Vegetables Day. It's the perfect reminder to pile your plate with colorful, crunchy vegetables. Whether it's leafy greens, bright bell peppers, or sweet roasted carrots, vegetables are packed with nutrients that fuel your body and boost your health. Many vegetables are high in fiber, and a diet rich in vegetables can lower your risk of chronic diseases. Not a fan of plain broccoli? Try roasting it with garlic, tossing spinach in a smoothie, or adding extra veggies to your pasta sauce. From your local farmer's market to your backyard garden, today's the day to go green, literally. So grab a fork, dig in, and let us celebrate good health one bite at a time. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. And eat your veggies, folks. Your body will thank you. And that's our world, the world we live in, Tuesday, the 17th of June. Have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.